A fleet manager saved $110 per tire by switching to a budget import. Across an 18-wheeler's full tire complement, that looked like $1,000 savings per unit. His actual blowout cost from that decision, over $2,000 per tire, showing up in a completely different budget column he wasn't even watching. Here's exactly how that math works and why it's nearly universal in commercial transportation. He had a spreadsheet, columns for acquisition cost, rotation cycles, retreading ratios. He was proud of it. He trimmed tire spend by 11% over 2 years. What he didn't have a column for was blowout events. He tracked them, he had incident reports, but they sat in a different system under a different budget line labeled roadside and recovery. When I asked him to add it up, he went quiet for about 30 seconds. That separation between tire cost and blowout cost is one of the most expensive accounting habits in commercial transportation, and it's nearly universal. The American Trucking Associations has tracked tire-related incidents for decades, and their data consistently shows that tire failures account for about 35% of all roadside breakdowns for commercial vehicles. Not equipment failure broadly, not weather, not driver error. Tires. One category. More than a third. The breakdown event itself, the service call, the downtime, the tow if needed, runs between $400 and $750 on average, not counting the replacement tire. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration puts the average cost of a commercial vehicle roadside tire event, including all associated costs, at closer to $850 once you factor in cargo delays, driver hours, and schedule disruption. Average cost matters. That number climbs fast in certain configurations. A dual tire blowout on a loaded trailer in summer heat on an interstate, the scenario most fleet managers treat as an edge case, generates an average incident cost of over $2,000, according to a 2023 analysis by Bridgestone's Commercial Fleet Division. That analysis covered more than 400 fleet accounts over a 3-year period. Over $2,000 is common in those cases, and that is where the accounting separation becomes a real liability. A fleet operator who buys a budget Asian import steer tire for $280 instead of a premium Bridgestone R283A or Michelin X-Line Energy D for $390 believes they have saved $110 per tire over an 18-wheeler's full complement. That looks like a $1,000 savings per unit. Manageable logic, but budget tires and commercial steer applications fail at roughly 2.4 times the rate of premium tires under the same load and mileage conditions, according to a 2022 fleet performance study by Continental Tire across 12 regional carriers. When you apply that failure rate to the FMCSA incident cost figure, that $110 savings produces an expected blowout cost of over $2,000 per tire over its service life, in a budget column the purchasing team never sees. The fleet manager from earlier, his 11% tire cost reduction had been partially funded by a 17% increase in roadside events over the same period. He hadn't connected them. Different systems, different budget owners, different reporting cycles. Commercial tire pressure data makes the same case from a different direction. The Technology and Maintenance Council of the American Trucking Associations found that 66% of commercial truck tires are running outside their optimal pressure range at any given time. Tires operated at 25% below their rated inflation pressure generate heat that accelerates internal structural degradation by up to 75%. According to a National Highway Traffic Safety Administration analysis. That degradation does not announce itself. There is no warning light on most commercial vehicles until the tire actually fails. The industry calls that a spontaneous blowout, an event that looks random but is, in the data, almost entirely predictable by maintenance interval. What makes that 66% figure even sharper is that tire pressure monitoring systems, known as TPMS, have been mandatory on light commercial vehicles since 2007, and they have been commercially available for heavy trucks for well over a decade. A fleet-grade trailer tire pressure monitoring system costs $300 to $600 per trailer to install, and a single avoided blowout event pays for that installation outright. According to a 2023 Fleet Technology Adoption Survey by Fleet Owner magazine, 54% of operators who had not deployed tire pressure monitoring systems cited upfront cost as the barrier, while they run, on average, 4.2 roadside tire events per year across their trailer fleets, using the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration incident cost baseline. That equates to roughly $3,500 a year in blowout costs to avoid a one-time $500 installation. The math does not resolve in the direction most operators assume it does. If you run a commercial fleet of any size, the numbers on your own operation are probably sitting in 2 or 3 disconnected systems right now. The repair side compounds the problem further. A commercial tire blowout on a highway generates, on average, 63 minutes of vehicle downtime for a service call, according to 2024 data from Goodyear's Fleet HQ service network. That's the median. It's just for the technician to arrive, assess, and mount a replacement. In rural corridors, like Interstate 80 through Nevada or Interstate 10 through West Texas, median response times run over 90 minutes. For a driver under hours of service regulations, a 90-minute unplanned stop doesn't just delay that load. It can trigger a cascading violation that delays the next load, or force a rest period that wasn't in the dispatch window. Those hours of service disruptions also hit CSA safety scores, creating Department of Transportation compliance exposure that goes well beyond the repair bill. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration estimates that a roadside event that disrupts hours of service adds an average of $230 in schedule recovery cost on top of direct repair expenses. Multiply that across a regional fleet running 40 to 60 units, and you're looking at an expected annual blowout cost between $60,000 and $90,000 in a line item that rarely sits next to tire acquisition spend. Seasonal patterns make this worse, and most fleet cost models do not account for them at all. June through September, peak heat, peak load, and peak highway miles account for roughly 58% of all commercial tire blowout incidents, according to FMCSA incident report data. Asphalt surface temperatures in southern and southwestern corridors regularly exceed 150 degrees Fahrenheit during those months, adding 15 to 20 degrees of heat load on top of what the tire is already generating from weight and speed. A tire that is marginal in February becomes a blowout candidate in July. Fleets that run a single annual inspection cycle are, by design, sending questionable tires into their highest failure months without a recent assessment. The American Trucking Association recommends pre-summer tire inspections as a standalone maintenance event, and fleets that implement them show a documented 22% reduction in summer blowout frequency. Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance inspectors flag tire condition issues more frequently during peak summer months too, when roadside enforcement activity increases. There is a cargo and liability dimension that almost never enters tire budget conversations. A blowout on a loaded commercial vehicle doesn't just damage the tire, it can, depending on configuration and speed, compromise vehicle control entirely. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's large truck crash causation study found that tire-related factors were a contributing cause in 11% of large truck crashes, resulting in injury or fatality. When a blowout contributes to a crash, the liability picture shifts fast. Commercial trucking insurers have increasingly scrutinized tire maintenance records during claims investigations, and several large carriers have faced subrogation actions where pre-incident logs showed documented pressure deviations. In one publicly reported 2022 settlement, a regional carrier's insurer argued that a pattern of underinflation constituted negligence, contributing to a settlement that exceeded the carrier's per-incident coverage limit by $400,000. The tire that failed cost $320 to replace. Retreading adds one more layer. Commercial tire retreading is a $40 billion global industry, and a well-managed retread program genuinely cuts acquisition cost. But quality control at the casing level is where that math can collapse. A casing that has been run underinflated, even intermittently, develops micro-separation between the steel belt layers that is invisible to a visual inspection. Retreading that casing with a premium tread compound produces a tire that looks identical to a sound retread, but carries a failure rate 3.7 times higher, according to a 2021 study by the Tire Retread and Repair Information Bureau. Fleets that retread based on cost per unit metrics without casing integrity, screening, or installing delayed incidents. The fleet manager came back to me a few weeks later. He had rebuilt his model, including tire acquisition costs, roadside events, hours of service disruptions, and one near miss that had generated an insurance inquiry, all on the same sheet. His actual cost per tire, once blowout-related incidents were allocated back to tire decisions, was 18% higher than his closest competitors, a competitor he had been outperforming on tire acquisition costs for 2 consecutive years. His tire budget had been accurate. His tire economics had not. And if you want to see how smart fleet operators are cutting that tire acquisition cost in half without sacrificing performance, the next video breaks down exactly how a $500 commercial truck tire gets a second life for $150. The math on retreading is real, but only when it is done right.